How's it going, everybody? It's Ben from the Ben and Bev channel. Today we're going to be reviewing
Marvel's Eternals.
Eternals is a 2021 Marvel film directed by Chloe Zhao and featuring massive ensemble cast.
Everyone from Angelina Jolie to Tyree Henry.
As well as Game of Thrones alumni like Richard Madden and Kit Harington. The film rolls out some quick introductory slides introducing us to these characters and where exactly in the timeline we're beginning.
And beginning is exactly where we're starting. At 6000 BC, we see this ship
flying through the skies as the Eternals are awakened from their sleep. The Eternals are these sentient beings given massive amounts of power.
Basically gods, if you think about it.
They're basically like the Greek gods of the Marvel Universe who have been given this power by the Celestials, who are basically the Titans of the Marvel Universe. While the Celestials are their reason for existing, they do have free will amongst themselves. They're led by Ajak, played by Salma Hayek, who kind of instructs them on what to do once they arrive to Earth and begin to interact with the humans, and where exactly their line begins and ends when it comes to assisting the humans in endeavor. The first act of this movie is some really quick introductory scenes through various pieces of time. We get that quick scene from 5000 BC, we then fast forward a few thousand years to a more modern Mesopotamia, and then a few more thousand years to the beginning of the settlers showing up in South America. As intriguing as it is to see these characters establish themselves across various points of history on Earth, all these different time jumps and location jumps really detriment the flow of the film in that first act, as it kind of feels a little slow. You're going through these various conversations and discussions over where their rights as Eternals end and begin when it comes to humanity and where they can intervene, as some of these characters have powers that are more based around destruction and protection, like shooting lasers out of their eyes or generating various types of
energy weapons.
Others have powers that are more based around creation, like Sersi's ability to turn wood into water, and her powers are kind of undistinguished at the beginning, besides that she can change wood into water and into metal into other elements. We also have Phastos, played by Tyree Henry, who can kind of create technology, and he has the invention spark. There's these very interesting powers and also really interesting dynamics for some of the characters, as Makari, a character who is deaf but she can sense vibration, so she can basically hear, but she also has the ability of super speed. And then we also have the character of Sprite, who has the ability to conjure images, dream sequences that everyone can see, but she for some reason appears as a child.
Being as none of these characters age, you can see why that might get old after a few thousand years.
So yeah, there's a lot of intricate detail and groundwork to lay for all these characters that the audience is completely unfamiliar. I'm well aware of that, but it really feels like with all these time jumps,
they could have established this in a previous movie, or maybe made this movie into a show and added another hour onto it.
And it's distinctly more noticeable in this first act, as the second and third act of the film flow very naturally, and despite there being various time jumps, usually those ones are more like memories that are recalled and being shown to us to benefit different insight into events that are happening, and revealing to us that things are not quite what they seem, as there's a pretty big twist around the beginning of that third act that kind of leaves your jaw on the floor as everything takes a turn for the worse. So character-wise, the layout is a little different than the trailers would make it. Ikaris is definitely a big part of the story, but the heart of it to me is Gemma Chan's Sersi, and she's actually probably my favorite character going on. And throughout the movie, my favorite character did change, as characters' behaviors in various periods of time, as well as in present day, make you really dislike them sometimes. But moving on with the main plot, it really is just Sersi, Ikaris, and Sprite. And as the film rolls on, you start to introduce more and more characters, and the whole backbone to the movie is Salma Hayek's Ajak, the leader, but she's not really that present throughout the film, as she's kind of stepped away from that leadership role in the last few thousand years, and it's really just the memories of how she's influenced these characters and her different interactions with them that you see that provide narrative structure for the whole film. She's the backbone, Sersi's the heart, Ikaris is another part of it, and Sprite's a little bit of the tag-along as they begin to journey out into the world and pick up their siblings that they haven't seen in thousands of years. And the whole movie is virtually just one big road trip picking up each sibling, but as you're doing this, you're also finding out more and more about the Deviants and more about the actual purpose behind the Eternals being here and what the Celestials actually had in mind for all of them. As you're watching it, you really feel that drive for information, as you as the audience really want to learn more with these characters. Despite them being gods, they know so little and can be left so powerless at times, and this is really present with Angelina Jolie's character Thena.
Goddess of war, goddess of wisdom.
But here she is having something called, I believe it's like weary or mad weary, but it's basically Alzheimer's for Eternal. She has so many memories that she can't keep them straight. Her vision will go blank, and then she'll start attacking everyone around her. Not able to tell friend or foe. Even when the Deviants are present, she can't use her powers to protect herself because she's so worried she's going to lose control.
The Deviants themselves as a villain,
they're not super important or impactful, but I do think they have an interesting arc as you move through the movie. They're not just mindless beasts, and as the movie goes on, their role becomes more and more prevalent. The real villain of this movie is not exactly who it seems, and that to me is what makes this movie a lot better than what those reviews are telling you.
Brings me to the final point that I'm going to try and make in this video.
The average review reviews for this movie on Rotten Tomatoes are 55%.
That's ridiculous.
I'm not trying to nitpick here, but the ratings for Venom 2 Let There Be Carnage are higher than that with critics, and I loved Venom for what it is.
But really?
You telling me
That all of these critics
disliked this Marvel movie so much that the average rating is 55% splat.
on a movie that is so different than everything else in the MCU, and the thing that they have been begging for years is for the MCU to be different. Well, they gave it to you.
Overall, this movie had phenomenal performances, a really different tone, and a really heavy sense of mythology, and a massive scope to the whole universe of everything.
A lot of positives.
And that's not mentioning the utterly shocking twist in the third act, and some absolutely stunning CGI. It's the least action-heavy of all of the MCU movies, and I don't think that's a bad thing at all. I really enjoyed the narrative depth, and I think Chloe Zhao really brought some interesting angles and direction to what would normally be a pretty dry superhero movie. The way she uses lighting and angles in these conversations, it makes everything feel very realistic, despite there being a lot of CGI pieces at work on the screen. Even in these immense battles, the lighting is absolutely impeccable. I love the focus on the human element of the story, despite our characters being eternal gods and significantly above us on the food chain in the universe. They have a very human side of them that is the big core of this movie that makes everything drive forward. It was handled so well. I left this movie with a smile on my face and also a lot of questions in my mind as to why it's getting butchered so badly by critics online. And while it may not be the best superhero movie of the year, it's definitely one of the more interesting ones, as the way it handles itself like a creation story is different than anything else I've seen before.
But it is not without its flaws.
As the first act definitely kills all momentum with all of its time jumps and confusing plotting just to get all of the narratives of these characters laid out for us before we can get the story actually going. Leading us to, my rating for Marvel's Eternals is an 8.6 out of 10. It's really one of the more unique Marvel movies that's been presented to us. It definitely feels like a breath of fresh air in this year's slate. I love the hints at something more that this movie leads.
I thought both after credit scenes. That's right, both of them. Don't forget to stick around for them.
For teases that I also really needed to see. Introducing some characters I've been waiting for in the MCU for years now. For me, Eternals is a must-see. What did you guys think about this movie? Let us know in the comments below. We'll see you guys next time. Ben and Bev, out.